Well, good morning, everybody. Fantastic weekend. Actually, this weekend was one of the most normal weekend I ever seen in a long, long time. I was driving down with my son down in Dana Point, San Clemente area, and it was beautiful. Classic California summertime, August the 2nd. You can expect better than this. Phenomenal, sunny, blue sky, beautiful water. Um, it reminded me a little bit what summer is about here in California. And we had a really busy road, which is, with the age of Corona, and now this is a new word here, the age of Corona, as it reminds me of the age of cholera. Yeah, with the pandemic, there's been a lot of restrictions. Orange County had issues with beaches. I don't know what the issue was. I think on the end, especially on the view of the fact that now they tell you better be outside than inside. I didn't even know why they kept inside all this time. But not to be polemic or even interested in these marginal issues at this point. People do what people do, and we just enjoy being alive and have a lot of fun. But it was actually busy on the road, and there was tons of people on the beach. It was so joyous. It was so fun. And we went visit a friend of mine. They have a beautiful restaurants down in Dana Point. It's called Stillwater. The Collins family, Damien, John, very great friends of mine, wonderful entrepreneurs, and they done some unique spots, where people can go and have just a great time. The food is good. The booze, the liquor flows very easily, and obviously it's a great place for meet and greet and have some fun, and obviously the food as well. Um, but I was really struck by the fact that how many people were just on the road. And usually in the last month or two, the roads have been free. We've been running around. We were actually making comment about how great was the road were empty. So if you're familiar with Orange County or you're familiar with Southern California, the 405, it's a nightmare on a good day, and a bad day is just impossible. And then you can be on the road. In fact, you can be on the road for hours just for a short trip of 5-10 minutes. In fact, when people ask us about destinations, we all make a good prediction with a caveat. Depends on traffic. So it means that it can be 10 minutes if nobody's on the road, but most likely it'll be more like an hour. So it was very, very nice to see. I was excited about it. And in the meantime, I was kind of a little bit ticked off because, of course, I was planning on getting myself a gelato in Newport Beach at Fashion Island. And it was jammed. It was traffic jam. So anyway, but the thing is, it came to me was very simple. I had a wonderful weekend. We did the two beautiful event at my place. We had the food and wine pairings, a Friday and Saturday. We've featuring Falangina from Campania, the producer of Villa Matilde, which is very close to my town. I could go into a little bit about talking about Falangina and so on, but I think I'm gonna skip that because I want to get to something that is really interesting and exciting for you as a consumer and for me as a wine professional. Because sometime I was on a call and very interesting, nice people, love the familiarity with certain type of wines, and of course, the conversation always going to some esoteric wines that most people can afford, and obviously, it's nothing wrong with that. It's wonderful that there is a room for everyone. But the thing is really interesting to me is that sometimes in the conversation we lose aside of what wine can be or should be, which is a wonderful pleasure, something that we can all enjoy. Whether we have $10 in our pocket or $10,000 in our pocket, we should all be able to have a glass of wine with our friends, with our family, and enjoy. That's basically the idea behind wine drinking and wine tasting. So I am big a promoter of that, and I really believe that ultimately there is a room for everyone and a room for everything. So this is a particular show about wine for everyone and affordable, delicious wine. Because of course, there are many affordable wine, and actually they are cheap wine if we really want to get into it. But they are cheap for a reason. You know what I mean? They really suck, and they're not great wines to start with, and either ethically or correctly made. But they're there, and some people enjoy and have fun with it. So I actually more into camp that there's plenty great wines. They are very affordable. They serve the purpose and they're enjoyable on all time. But one in particular, I just want to stop on that particular wine because it's a category that too many times, way too many times, gets overlooked, especially from the professional wine drinkers or the professional in general, because there is a simplicity to it that it doesn't require intellectual stimulant. You get me? I mean, in other words, you just enjoy it. Well, that's a stimulant enough to me. If you pour in a glass and you say to yourself, wow, this is delicious, and I want another glass, that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. And every time you drink a glass of wine, you shouldn't be writing an essay. You should be just laughing and giggle and tell a good story and hang out. You know, that's the point. Few years back, I was hired to be a wine ambassador for a wonderful company, Solo Qualità, which I was there for 4 years plus. I just ended up my relationship informally, actually, because we are great friends, and I love Mimo Bruno with his Tutto Latte. I mean, Tutto Latte used to be our company, but Di Stefano cheese. A fantastic burrata, one of the best producer in the nation for sure, without any doubt. And you can visit the factory. You see the handmade burrata, the labor of love, fresh milk from California, one of the best. But Mimo and I had a long-standing relationship. We formed a couple company before. So when he asked me to be the representative, my job was not only to go out and represent the wine, but also help them, aid them on the producer side as well as the distribution side to facilitate or give information that are very valuable and very beautiful to help all of us in the business to kind of make an easy transition. One of the things that I encountered right away was a great producer, very new on the marketplace from Negrisio, which is up in the Piave region, north of Venice. Wonderful family, the Zanchetta family. Really, really great, hardworking people with a great heart, wonderful human beings that I truly enjoy. Natalino, of course, Giovanna is the one I work in. Their ambassador nationwide was Marco Criscido, which is it would turn out to be a great friend. Very wonderful people. But the first time I saw the bottles of their Prosecco, and of course, their two main productions is Prosecco Raboso, which is the wine we're going to talk about it a little bit. Well, you all kind of get the idea what Prosecco is. And Prosecco, generally speaking, from Valbiadene, everybody knows, it can be really questionable, to be honest with you. Prosecco never was intended to be something uber special. It was something to really be pleasurable, fun, easy, with a wonderful characteristic. It's very gentle on the palate, this wonderful foam. And you can enjoy Prosecco from the morning to the night in between. And you can actually have, in Italian, we use a word that's called pasteggiare, to eat with it. Especially in the Venetian area, in the lagoon, where they have a lot of seafood, a lot of fish, a lot of light dishes, you know, and sometimes Prosecco is a great companion for all that. In fact, I suggest to a lot of people to have a lunch or dinner with Prosecco, with their seafood and fish, and some of the light dishes, even pasta with the cream and crab base, you know, scallops. It's a much, much more easy companion and a fun companion to have. Of course, all depends on your palate, all depends on your pocket. You can go champagne if you like, but champagne can be a little bit heavier over time. If you drink a few glasses of champagne, it's really aggressive, very strong. And not everybody can afford. And of course, someone make an argument there is a lot of inexpensive champagne. That is true. There's also cava. But Prosecco is really for all season, for all moments. But the one that I really enjoy, it's the Raboso. Raboso it's a grape. This is very disturbing grapes because when it's young, the name Raboso, that means really rebus, mean. And only that comes from, it's an endearing term, obviously. It's not a grape that when you grab it, just bite you. It's just a wonderful grape that has a high tannins, high acidity. Those two components almost sound fighting one another. But in reality, in these particular grapes, they find a great joy because there is a middle fruit in these grapes. There is a sour cherry, cranberry notes of very attuned around the palate that it makes those two components very, very amicable to each other in an interesting way, which is a very pleasant, inviting, with a great tart and sweetness, and then the spices in the back end of it, which is quite interesting. But the thing about Rebozo, which historical was a grape that was highly loved and admired by the Doge of Venice. The Venetian were mariners, people that ruled the sea. In fact, the one of the most powerful literary piece is The Merchant of Venice by Shakespeare, and that's all about the power of Venice and the commerce. And of course, you all know about Marco Polo and the spaghetti and all that nonsense. However, the facts are that when boats left the lagoon of Venice, they were empty. So that's not a good thing. It's like an empty truck. It doesn't make any sense, and it costs you money. So the Venetian were looking for a product to load up and bring it to the Fiandre, which is the Holland, the Norway, Holland, the Luxembourg, and Belgium, and then of course way up to the North Sea, where they used to pick up a lot of the product, and mostly actually Fiandre. They used to pick up the cottons and for the fabrication of cloth and so on and so forth. So they needed something to be inside the boat, and they found that these particular grapes, once pressed and one is made, it withstanded the voyage. And in fact, the two components, the acid, the tannin, it was actually a great friend of aging, because by the time the trip was finished, the wine got mellow, got softer. So in fact, in reality, that treatment is done in a Slavonic oak, big barrels from Slovenia. And the idea is to soften, mellow out the wine. It takes about 4 or 5 years to come around really nicely. In fact, when you drink a young Rebozo, it's really more an aggressive, funky flavor kind of wine with lots of tart and cherries and spices. If you're used to, you love it. If you don't, sometimes you don't. You find it a little bit too aggressive. However, when it's made in a sparkle, it's quite brilliant. It's quite exceptional. And I tell you why. Because those particular notes of high acidity and great tannins are wonderful, vibrant feelings on your palate when you add a little sparkle to it. And so they make a two particular one we spoke about in the Rosé broadcasting about the Geloso. But the one that really struck me, it was the Rebozo Curioso, the red sparkle Rebozo. And curious because it's curious, right? Everybody expected this big bomb of red wine, and here comes this soft, heavy gloves, hitching your face, hitching your palate, but it's so good and it's so different. It's curious. So you kind of stop a little. It's like, really? It's a sparkle. And then you say, well, but actually it finished like a great wine. It's got these beautiful notes of myrtle and skin of cherry at the back end of it. So it's a glass of wine after all. So when I first encountered the meeting and they presented these bottles, and actually they were overly sweet to me. They were actually not well made. But I saw the potential. I thought, wow, this, with a little refinement, this wine can be really interesting, especially in the marketplace that we live, which is the United States. With all the young consumer, they are really enthralled with all those garage beer, unique beer, Trappist beer. So effervescence for the young consumer in between the age of 19 and 38, 45, they're common. They enjoy it, and in fact, the more unique the flavors, the more they attract to. Some they're just disgusting, to be honest with you. Like cider vinegar and mushrooms. That's I don't know. I'm a chef, and I can tell you those two combinations can be really disturbing. However, look, to each his own. Everybody can do it. So, what is what it is. But this, I thought personally, that's a gamble I'm willing to take because I do understand my consumer better than most, because I understand that there are certain flavors, they're very pleasurable, and the people react immediately to it. And so when I suggest them to work on the bottles and change the format instead of the classic champagne bottles everybody was using it, they went back to their classic bottle from the area, which is a little squawky bottle. I call the Sophia Loren, big side and nice and slim top, but just beautiful. And it's also a standout bottle because it's very unique and you don't see it all the time. But really, it's not about the bottle. What's in the bottle is really interesting. So they come back to the product, and it was just really great. Well done. Right balance in between sweet and sour, sugar and acidity. A wonderful roundness in the mouth, so that when the first approach of the wine comes in, it's got just enough teaser of sweetness and just enough effervescence that you just want to go to the next sip. And after that, you get this mouthfeel, which is beautiful, black fruit and red fruit, cranberry, cherries, and blackberries and blueberries. Very, very interesting. And then this nice little finish in the back. So typically what I did is I introduced this particular wine with the antipasti or the charcuterie plates, because they really are fantastic with it, because you have some salami, you got some cheeses, you got soft cheeses, and most of the charcuterie plates, I think they're done with less intelligence and more purpose. In other words, if you really have to put together a nice charcuterie plates, typically, if that's the only plates you do, then you have a lot of varieties. But if that's the beginning, or antipasto we call, you tended to do softer cheeses, lighter cheeses, and some of the salumi typically, around the particular arrangement is to have a 2-3, but not more, because otherwise you get overwhelmed with flavors and textures, and then the next course is not as interesting. So in this particular case, I'd rather serve a nice sparkling red or even the rosé, because the goals of this is to get dazzled, to start with, to enjoy the moment in the beginning, because there's more to come. And so because they're also low in alcohol, only 10%, so it's really a wine that you can enjoy without overly do it in terms of drinking. So to me, it's a wonderful beginning, but also a wonderful flavorance, because that little note of sweet with a little note of sour, it really helps the palate, and the effervescence cleanse the palate. So that you have taste almost all type of salami with all type of spices, and then the cheeses very distinctively, because especially if you use like a goat cheese or a brie, a camembert, or some of the more creamier cheeses, your palate tends to be oversaturated, which is wonderful, because you chew it through it and you eat it through it and you get all the different flavor. But then you want the next bite to be cleaner, and then you can kind of get into the next layer of flavor. Now, of course, I'm talking like someone who really cares. There's some people that just get a big chunk of bread, they slap on it, they put a sandwich and they eat it. That's an antipasto, but that's okay. We are just using a little bit of poetic philosophy, because actually that's the way you should do it. Part of the enjoyment of a charcuterie plate is to have a different presentation, different items, so that you can enjoy textures and flavors and uniqueness, whether it will be a meat base, it will be a beef base, it doesn't matter, a pork or whatever, walbo or duck. You want to kind of enjoy those textures, you want to enjoy those flavors, and of course the idea behind making a great salumi is to have the consumer to enjoy those kind of stuff. So all things equal, I believe that this is a fantastic glass wine. But something really interesting happens because um, I was featuring some other wines, and I thought I was working on a new recipe of a chocolate tart. Um, and I really love the texture of the nice little crunchy on top, and then the nice creaminess inside the tart, the beautiful rich 70% the chocolate, dark chocolate Creole. And I was thinking, there's so much going on here. There's so much beautiful going on here. So much roundness, um, great notes of a cacao, wonderful creamy notes of roast hazelnuts, and yet I just don't want anything else. I really don't want something to fight with all this. I wanted this lingering aftertaste to be with me for a while and enjoy it for a longer time. So, what would be a really great wine to come in a little bit timid, a little bit shy, but absolutely wonderful with it? Well, along came Raboso Curioso, and I absolutely love it. I do. I think the wine is just boom, on the money, just right, just there. It does exactly what I intended to do, which was come in into the palate, now flow the palate, now of exhaustion in your sensory notes, but actually provoke them. Take out some of the cacao notes on the side with a little effervescence, but lean into the chocolate creaminess, the dark cacao with the beautiful cherry and blackberry notes. And then slowly pull back the effervescence and just have this myrtle blueberry sitting in the back of your palate while you still have these elongations of the flavor of the chocolate. Spectacular. Now, if you think about it, most Metro D, most wine sommelier will go for the kill, right? Because this is a unintimidated, beautiful chocolate tart. Very slow. I'm gonna make it for you guys one day, and I'm gonna show you. Very simple, but it has packed so much power. In fact, too much is a little bit too much. You have to do a small sliver. But there's so much going on that is bombastic. It's exciting. And so a sommelier will come in right away. It will go for the killer because it will go for a managed port or even a fantastic Madeira, but it will go towards either port or Recioto. Usually those babies start running around the 70, 80, 100, $150 a bottle, little bottle, 300, 500 millimeters. Whereas with Raboso, with $20, you're happy and you're running a bottle with 4 friends of yours, and you're saying to yourself, why didn't I thought of this? Why didn't I have this before? Well, my question is, the reason why you didn't, because you didn't know about it. Honestly. We're the first one that brought them in the country. And I was bottling most wine buyers across the nation because they told me that you, out there, the consumer, don't really understand this wine or even appreciate this wine. And I actually fought for you because I said, this is insane. You guys mean to tell me that you know every single consumer out there, 360 million people, or out of this, maybe 100 million drinking, you know all of them. They don't like this wine. Why? And their logic was, well, because it's sparkling. Oh, because it's red and it reminds you too much of a cheap Lambrusco. Or blah, 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 blah. And on and on and on. You know what? Dude, stop with the excuses. All right? Why don't we have a consumer tell us what they think? Because, they do have an opinion. Now, of course, you don't have to take a poll to know what the consumer thinking. You just pour a glass of wine, see what happens. If they make a disgusting face, no, it's okay. But if they say, hey, what can I buy this? Or what the hell is this thing? Is so good. Then what the question is, what's your next excuse? What is it? That is too cheap? That is not expensive enough? that is not glorious enough, is not going to get the 99.9 point in Wine Spectator? Is that it? That's not why we drink wine. We could care less. We love discussions. We love opinions. Everybody's got one. You know, it's like the other thing we have. We all have one. But an opinion shouldn't stop for you to go and try just because somebody expressed an opinion. In fact, if you want to know my opinion about ratings, I think they're garbage. It's one person opinion. It's not what it is. I don't care how long they tell you experts they are, how far they wrote, how many books they wrote, how many idiotic magazine they write for it. It's just an opinion. It's your opinion. You don't own my palate. I do. I know when I taste something that I enjoy. As you, out there. If you pour a glass of wine, before we start talking about what wine it is, if you don't like it, what am I going to convince you to like it? Is that the idea behind this? Or you're stupid enough, or you don't know enough, or you're not educated enough, or your palate is not trained enough? Is that it? No, it's not like that at all. It's your palate. If you enjoy it. Then we can discuss other things about, well, where it come from, why, maybe if you like that kind of wine, maybe you should be more aware of this other wine. But that's a different story. This is a conversation. I am really not interested in the public being led by a bunch of people. They think they know better. It's not necessary. So listen, have fun, drink a beautiful Robusto from Sette Anime. It's fantastic wine. It goes well with charcuterie, it goes well with pasta, and most of all, it goes well by himself with your friends. So next time, when you're around, call me and we'll share a glass together. Ciao. You have a wonderful day.